Yes, I really must stop doing that because I drop myself in it, don't I? Because you then make me lead off. Um, yeah, I was thinking about this, and I realised that my whole existence at the moment as trail running man really is due to an outlier. I went to a talk at the Adventure Travel Show, and this guy Dave Cornthwaite was talking about how he used to be a graphic designer in London. He used to sort of play computer games, and he realised his cat went out more than he did. So he chucked his job in and skateboarded across Australia, as you do. And he's now doing 25 journeys of 1,000 kilometres or more without motorised transport. So he went across Japan on one of those little scooters that children use. He's cycled places, he's canoed places. And when I heard him talk, I thought, do you know what? I can be like that. And there were probably 300 people in that room. And a bit later on, he ran a course on how to make money out of your passion, or more precisely, how not to make money out of your passion. And 2 people turned up. Out of that 300, 2 people turned up. And I suppose outliers sometimes are necessary to inspire us, but only a few of them are aspirational. We can't necessarily all be like Dave Cornthwaite. I wanted to be, the other guy in the room wanted to be, but the other 298 didn't want to be. And I think sometimes we need those outliers to inspire us to say, get off our arse and do something, technical term that, but we can't aspire to be them. Otherwise, there would be more than one Jeff Bezos, there'd be more than one Elon Musk, because people would say, oh yeah, I'll be like him. And I think it's the same in the world of sport. I've got a friend, Mimi Anderson. I find her very inspirational. She's helped me a lot. She gave me a lot of advice when I first did the Marathon des Sables, a race in the Sahara Desert. But she's so out there, no one can aspire to be her. She did a double comrades, i.e. she ran from the finish to the start, then ran the race. She did a double Badwater, that race in America, 135 miles, I'm not sure what that is in kilometers, in the hottest place in America. And she's just too far of an outlier for people to aspire to. Whereas there's a lady, Lisa Jackson, who comes from South Africa, strangely enough, I think from Cape Town originally. She inspires, well, lots and lots of people, and lots of people think they can be like her, because Lisa Jackson's claim to fame is she's come last in 25 marathons. But she loves running. She absolutely loves running. And people can say, yeah, I can be like Lisa. I'm carrying a little bit of extra weight. I'm not going to be the winner. Whereas, you know, Paula Radcliffe, who wins marathons, people can't identify with her. But we need people like that to say, actually, if we aim for the stars, we're not going to end up in the mud, but we won't get to the stars. So that's my thoughts on outliers, a bit jumbled and a bit rambling, but yeah, there we go. And I must remember not to be an outlier and suggest things.
No, but Edward, it wasn't rambling at all. I thought those were brilliant points. And I really, as you say, it's good to know, oops, we've lost the net. You know, who's so far out there that we can't get there, and who's medium out there, outlier, that we can at least become half of the medium outlier. So yeah, I think that's great. Jasper, what are your thoughts around outliers, what they teach us, and why we're drawn to them?
Uh, there's a call coming in, so just move to someone.
Okay, sure. Tabisa, I know that your connectivity is coming and going, so maybe let's see if you've got a chance to chat to us now.
I hope that everything goes well, honestly. We're speaking about outliers, right? Outliers, I think that they're actually the best people in the world, you know, because they are individuated in one particular skill, you know. They tend to see things a bit more differently, you know, and they are enthusiastic about life, you know. They have a lot of fun. People like Lionel Messi, you know, considered the greatest soccer player of all time, you know, and I'm talking about 6 Ballon d'Ors, 6 European Golden Boots, the only footballer to win the Laurier's Best Sportsman Player of the Year, you know, and the player with the most goals in a calendar year, you know, 91 goals. The most goals in a season, 73 goals. The player with the most trophies, free kicks, and other countless records and achievements, you know. Lionel Messi, a great man, you know. Thank God for Messi, and happy 34th birthday to my king. You know, I dedicate this monologue to you. You know, I think that outliers are people who work hard to actually perfect their crafts. You know, they actually hone them and perfect them. You know, they dedicate labor, love, and care for their crafts. You know, a lot of time, you know, is spent on their crafts. You know, a lot of time. You know, and people who are outliers most of the time, you know, they have actually attained mastery, you know, in engaging in 10,000 hours, you know, or approximately 7 to 10 years, you know, of intense focus and dedication, you know, but it can also be innate too, you know. So I guess in that regard, we are all outliers, you know, because we all have that special thing, you know, that makes us the best, you know. We are all Lionel Messi and something, you know, and just something. There's something about us, you know, that we are the greatest of all time in, you know. I think that relativity is such an interesting concept, you know. Um, I mean that life is subjective and we also fall in a box at the same time, you know. So how sure am I? How can I, am I really unique? Is there such a thing as unique? I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure what outliers means anymore, you know, after speaking so intently about outliers. I think I just need to, you know, organize my thoughts. Um, but, you know, I think that I will forever be a FC Barcelona fan, you know, for the way they handled the whole Messi contract thing, you know. They gave Messi everything, you know, even going into bankruptcy in the process. You know, I like that enthusiasm, you know, just give Messi everything. He's the greatest of all time and he's with us, you know. So don't worry, you know, we will recover. It's just money, you know, just our job is just to give Messi what he wants, you know, as Barcelona is to keep him happy, you know. I love the enthusiasm of the club, you know, to actually keep Messi happy, you know. Yeah, outliers, Lionel Messi and man, um, yeah, thank you, Lee. I don't know what to say honestly, but yeah, you know, outliers, Messi, FC Barcelona, yeah, I think I just leave it there, you know. Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Tabiso. I just and I could just see you as a fan in the stadium, even though it's you can't get there. I mean, that's I just definitely love the shout out, and we should put a little banner on our YouTube clip that says shout out to Lionel Messi. Woo-hoo! Fantastic, thank you. Trevor, tell us about outliers.
Well, first of all, I think that great outlier, Thabiso, the little crocodile, needs to become a soccer coach, man. I mean, you can imagine how fired up you'd be running onto the field. We're all Lionel Messi's and we're going to score. I mean, there'd be a fight at the front of the goals, for goodness sake. Even the goalkeeper would want to be taking all the penalties and striking up front. Now, that other outlier, what's his name, Ed Chapman, he missed his opportunity. So I'm going to actually become an Ed Chapman today. And I am doing a dictionary definition of outlier: a person or thing situated away or detached from the main body or system, a person or thing differing from all other members of a particular group or set. Now, I don't know this. I think this sort of thing, outlier, you tend to get a vision of the Americans when the early discovery of Americans, when they started moving from the east to the west. And you think of these pioneers and outliers, and maybe you think of the Dutch who left from Cape Town to actually move across Southern Africa to settle in Pretoria, and so they became the Boers. These are people who actually want to move away from the control of systems, and perhaps they fall under the label of non-conformist. And are they necessarily achievers? Because I think somewhere along the line there's a balance, but those people who seem to achieve big time know how to play the system, and they play the system with an outlier mentality, but they still working around the system and having a look to see what works and what doesn't work in the system, and then they push the envelope big time. So I don't know that outliers is the correct term for people like Richard Branson and Bezos and Musk and these type of people. I just think they are they represent, for those of us who have these entrepreneurial, innovative, creative leanings, they represent that statement: if they can do it, I can too. And I think that was the road that Thabiso was going down, that everyone has unique ability. And what these people are doing at the top of their game are demonstrating to us the things that they do to get where they want to be. Now, some of these people, there's no way I want to do what they've done to get to where they want to be. So we become selective at choosing as role models the characteristics or attitudes that they actually have that conform to our moral beliefs and our moral attitudes and who we want to be. So we almost have a smorgasbord of choice of those people who are leaders in their particular fields, and we can cherry pick the best of who they are and what they do to actually try and follow those and utilize them as almost a blueprint of what we want to apply to our own lives. So I suppose that's, I'm trying to work out this thing of outliers. Is it important? I love the fact that people are pioneers and you can go out. I mean, is Ed an outlier? Does he see himself as an outlier? Does Richard Branson see himself as an outlier? I think these people took opportunities when opportunities struck. Were they prepared for them? I think they got chutzpah. And you know what, I also wanted to share, but let me not talk too much here because Jasper must talk. I've got something that I want to show Ed. I don't know if I talked about it before, but it was from my dear departed mother. She was obviously in Cornwall. And I've found it in some of the stuff that we're throwing out. It's a definition of Trevor, and I'll share that with you. It might relate to this outlier thing here just now. So let Jasper have a moment to chat.
The baton is yours, Jasper.
Thank you. Yeah, so no, I think it's good to be prompted by the words and the meanings of words, and in the end, it's up to us to give meanings to anything. And if I just go down that track for a bit, you know, a person with the name, call it Susie. I can over time meet a Susie and she could be a negative person and I would have a negative connotation to that word. And then a few years later, I can meet another Susie who's very kind and I would then think is a beautiful person. So words is literally in the end what it's almost our context in which we get exposed to those meanings. So I started off by thinking of outliers as people who redraw boundaries. So they increase our world and we need them. And then I said, and then obviously they inspire us, and not to say I want to be like them, but they show us what is possible, and they actually open up the playing field for more people to play on. So that's the sort of connotation I want to put to that. Then I would want to say they change agents. They don't accept the norm. So they arrive in this world and they say, but this is not normal. So it's not their normal. And then they change it to their normal. And their normal is initially scary for a whole lot of people, but that's why I'm coming back to that thing that they do. They redraw boundaries. But I think many of them did not necessarily start off their journey in life to become these outliers. It's literally, they were like a catalyst, the right person at the right place at the right time. And the environment was already building up to a point of something needs to happen and happen fast. And in this context stepped this guy who just maybe said a few right things or had the right connections or whatever. And all of a sudden he's now recognized as the person who brought this thing to pass. And I'm thinking, I don't know why it came up again, but Lech Walesa in Poland or whatever, he was a labor union leader. And he basically brought that whole government come crashing down, but he wasn't a special person. And I don't think he had a long life after him, but he would always be recognized as the spearhead or call it the catalyst, the agent. So my mind then goes to say, the outliers are there, and we only know they're outliers once they are extending the boundaries and showing what's possible. But what's more important to me is what prompted them. So if I can learn what prompted them, you know, then we can expand the boundaries much faster and create a better world much faster. So what prompted a Mother Teresa as just an insignificant little Catholic nun to say, you know what, people need dignity when they die. And she went out on the streets of Kolkata and she started to just give dignity with her limited resources. And she refused to be, and I'm sure she had a lot of pressure from her church and the institution to say, listen, man, you are now, you're a reputational risk for us. But what was initially a reputational risk now became almost the export product of the Catholic Church with Mother Teresa and the work that she's done. I'm thinking of my personal passion to follow generational families. These families that achieve great things in their lives, and I'm not saying they're necessarily good people. I'm watching a series on Rupert Murdoch and how he built his empire. And he had the upbringing of being in that industry with his father. But so basically what prompted him to was almost like, I'll show you, is that when his father passed on, he had quite an empire of newspapers mostly in Australia, but it was in a trust, and young Rupert didn't have access to that. And the trustees then decided to dissolve the whole company and only kept out one newspaper for him. And that peeved him off so much that because that wasn't the vision that he had for his family. And that started him on that drive to start, you know, building the empire that eventually spanned not only newspapers, but radio stations and TV stations and other things. But, you know, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you got involved with things like phone tapping and getting into people's dirty baggage, stuff like that. And everybody was happy to tag along on this. The politicians, especially there in Britain, they all sit with heavy egg on their face. But it's just the nature of man to. So the bad elements will always be there in some of these outliers. But I'm thinking of the man himself. What caused him to build this massive? It's a massive empire, and our own country, the Ruperts, the Maponyas, and people who. You know, Maponya starting with like a trader with his bakkie, buying stuff, selling stuff, and eventually the owner of a mall and a soccer team and all sorts of things. What prompts those people? So I think then I said to myself, these people were just true to themselves to say, I am unique. I am happy to be unique. And I discover my uniqueness and I excel in my uniqueness. And I think that's it. If that then is the definition of an outlier, we are all outliers. Some of us just haven't yet embraced our uniqueness and said, okay, what is my specific uniqueness? And let me embrace it and let me excel in that. And then in time, people will refer to us as outliers and say, you know, you've expanded my territory. You've expanded boundaries for me. You inspired me, etc. So yeah, so that's my contribution.
Brilliant, Jasper. Yeah, these certainly aren't called wisdom's chats for nothing. So thank you for that. Trevor, tell us about you.
Well, before I do that, there are a couple of things that I actually want to just touch base on. I think there are outliers that are making a significant impression on the world, the future of the world today. And here is one. He is the developer of Morales, a blockchain developer. Now, I was just so engrossed because I caught this as a YouTube video that came up here. You know how these YouTube things come onto your browser window, and I thought, okay, let me click it, and it said something about you know, Bitcoin in a downward trend. He's an analyst. And I thought, okay, let me watch this thing. What's going on here? And he was just talking about how, you know, this Bitcoin thing is going to get worse and worse, but he's really pro blockchain. And then what stood out for me towards the end of this video is he made a statement. We are employing. We have got unlimited job opportunities, and he laid out all the job opportunities and he said, please just come, just come, just come, just come. Now, that is completely different to every message that I'm hearing from all around the world, which for me makes him an outlier, and I want to understand more. So I thought I'd put that link in. If you work through it to get where he's saying this, I've now pegged him for research. So similar to Kevin Shue for me, and I'm these guys are so excited about the future of the world right now, and we've got to study people like this. Then I mentioned, I think over the weekend, that I watched a thing called The Minimalist on Netflix. And as Edward was talking about, out of 300 odd people, he then rocked up with one other guy who really showed his true intentions. You've got to watch The Minimalist because these people wrote a book, these two youngsters, I think they were in their early 30s. They wrote a book about, you know, how you don't need to go after all these material things. And then they went to book launches and they went to all these exhibitions. And I saw a group of people almost as Ed describes, who came to sit in, and there must have been about 200 or 300 old farts. I better not say that too loud. Is this a public platform? Sitting there, and you've got to see their faces. Total disinterest. I mean, they went along to go and listen to these people, and they sat there with long faces, totally disinterested. How these people actually stood in front of them to talk of their passion about downsizing, and why did they go there in the first place? I mean, people are amazing. Okay, and then you wanted me to talk about myself. No, what I wanted to do, this was just for Ed, and it is a postcard. And I looked at the back of it, and it said published by John Hind, Redruth, Cornwall. And I immediately thought of Ed, you see. But then I went to the front, and it seemed to relate to this particular topic of outliers. And I absolutely, I don't go with this. The definition of Trevor, or the description: he may seem staid and unadventurous, but he has an unpredictable streak and likes to surprise those around him. A complex and deceptive character. I mean, these Cornwall people know nothing, man. Who swings between orthodox and outrageous. Okay, so I mean, it's not believable, but I thought it was fun, and we'll just put that across there. So that's nothing about Trevor, but it was, my mother brought it home from her travels in the UK, and I thought that was fun. It does go on to say Trefor originates from Wales, where there are many places called Trefor. This term derives from the two elements tref, meaning settlement, and for, meaning large. So I'm a large settlement. That's what I understand by this. Am I an outlier? Nope. Maybe.
Thanks, Trevor. Edward?
Yeah, I just wanted to say Redruth is a town just 5 miles away from where I live. And there's a big rivalry between Redruth and Camborne. You know, people in Camborne think Redruth people are, well, you know, strange, and vice versa. But there was one thing that Trevor said that I really did not understand. And that was, you know how these YouTube things pop up on your PC? They don't pop up on my PC. So I don't know what Trevor's doing.
You are just not PC. I mean, YouTube loves me. It throws everything at me, man.
Wonderful, wonderful. So outliers. So if I just put in my little thinking around it, I think one of the things that I wonder is whether, if you took not just a helicopter view, but into, you know, the spaceship, the space, you're looking at Earth from space. What is it called, Edward?
The thingy, the space thingy.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That, you know, circles the Earth and looks down at the planet.
What do you? Yep.
That as you know, what you're seeing is that the outliers, whatever it might be, they might be achievers, they might be soccer players, they might be the people that I'm drawn to are the people who are living in the woods, or the people who are buying tiny houses, the minimalists that Trevor's talking about, and we've spoken about them as role models and so on. But I actually think that as humanity, we see those outliers as representing us, not because they're role models, but because they're part of us as the human race. And therefore, we are very satisfied with where we are because they're doing their thing. And it's not only, yes, we can live vicariously through them, and I think some of that is, but I think it's also that we have some level of comfort that the human race is doing its thing. It's exploring, it's expanding boundaries. You know, we as human beings are really amazing. And I think that comfort or that sense of I'm actually an explorer, or I'm actually an outlier, I'm actually doing these amazing things, is the power of stories, and especially the stories that come to us through media. So it feels like I'm actually there. I'm living this, I'm running this marathon. You know, I remember somebody talking about, you know, plotting somebody doing a rowing trip from coast of Africa through to New Zealand. And you've got the GPS and you can follow them and so on. And you're literally living the rowing trip. You're part of it and you feel like I am in it. And the person commented rather wryly saying, you know, very grateful for all the support and thank you very much. And everybody is now asking me, what am I going to do next? And the person said, I'm not actually going to be that little green dot on your laptop that you are very excited to follow. I actually have to do it. And I think that is in actual fact the difference, is that we are drawn to these people. They are wonderful people and we're excited to participate. But when it means that I actually have to get up and do it, and I have to do the hours of practice, and I have to get up at all hours of the day, and I have to push through the tough times, and I, you know, have to take on the risks and, you know, all the difficulties that outliers actually experience, it gets a little bit too much. And so I think we're happy to, and I'm not saying, I mean, I'm there as well. I thought, oh, could I buy a tiny house? Probably not. You know, could I go? There's a lady and I'll just end with this. So I was watching Ben Fogel's Where the Wild Men Are. I don't know why he calls it Wild and Where the Wild Men Are. Half the program is women. So anyway, there's a woman that he visited, and she has built a community in Pembrokeshire, Edward, literally in the woods. And she's built her house out of materials that are on the land, so nothing has been transported in. It's a little hobbit house made out of sticks and grass and horse manure, and that she plastered on herself. and Ben Vogel's sitting talking to her, and he says, "You're living the dream." And she said, not because she has a house out of house manure, thanks, but because she's this really pared life down to its absolute basics and is completely one with nature, and doing it in order to protect the environment and ensure that everything that she is enriching nature rather than taking away from it. And so he turns to her and says, "You're living the dream." And she looks at him and she says, "But then why aren't more people doing it?" So yeah, I think that's what the question that many outliers may ask us. And it's the question that obviously I have to point back at myself. So those are the thoughts that I have around outliers. Sorry we missed Sanette, but we look glad that the rest of us are on board here. And tomorrow is business fundamentals. So Thursdays are business fundamentals. And so we're following a program that is based on a book that Trevor wrote called Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur. And it really is as much as it was written many, many years ago. That's why we've actually called this business fundamentals, because they actually are very significant building blocks that it doesn't matter where you are in business or what stage of business you're at. These building blocks need to be in place or would help to ensure the success of your business. So the first chapter of this book is called How Committed Am I? And I think that is a very good question to ask in the face of what it takes to start a business, because what we've been doing up till now, we've been looking at giving advice to startups and looking what it means to start a business. And so I think it's a good question to ask at this stage. How committed am I in the sense of business fundamentals and starting my business and keeping my business going? So that's our subject for tomorrow. Trevor?
I don't know if I can commit to being there tomorrow, but I'll try.
There you go. We've had that wisdom's chats, haven't we? I do or I try.
I'll see you there tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.